Welcome. My name is Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. In this video, we're going to go over the Spring 2025 midterm assignment. So what I've done is I've developed a set of base files to help you get started on the midterm assignment. And, I hope that these files will provide a good foundation for you to build a website that you can be proud of and you can kind of include in your web portfolio. So right here is pretty much the website that's based on those files. So there's just some base files. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using what's called RSS feeds. So that way I'll explain a little bit more about what that is here in a minute. But so we're going to be using an RSS feed, so you can get different content for different topics. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So here's, this is going to be the base files you're going to get, and I'll show you how to get the files as well. And actually, this is I actually went ahead and made this even on GitHub. You use this URL, and you can actually go to the site itself. But I'll go ahead and also we'll go ahead and clone the files, and you can bring that into your folder instead of doing it like this or anything. So, but it's just a couple basic. Here's the index.html, and here's one of the feeds. Okay, and I also got kind of this dark mode here as well. Okay, and so this is what you'll get, and this will be kind of the base foundation files you use, and you'll build it from there. Okay, and actually I have a version here that I'm kind of building myself. So basically, I started with the base files. And I've got multiple different pages here, okay. And so and you have the dark mode. I kind of changed some colors to make them kind of align better for consistency's sake. But so I'm going to give you all you won't get this. You'll get the base files, and you'll have to build it from there. But this is basically the same feed for robotics, and then I've got another feed for artificial intelligence. And so this is a work in progress myself. And so I'm working on this. And then I have two more, which I haven't really done much with yet. But this is a carousel. And then I've got, here's oceans. So these are just all different feeds. So this is content for you to use. And we're going to be using, using the skills and the technologies we learned to this point. A lot of Bootstrap, right? So this is an accordion for Bootstrap. So this is a work in progress right now for me, okay? And then here's the welcome page as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the assignment. So, this assignment's going to be about fetching and processing and displaying data from RSS feeds. So make sure you're already going to have when you get the files, you're going to have the index.html, but it's very important to have that. Don't change the name, because when we go ahead, we're going to use what's called GitHub Pages. And so that way it'll be viewable online, right? So that's something you can, add a link to your web portfolio. You can share with friends and family, show them what you've been doing, spend a little time on it. I think you could, you'll have something, you can really be proud of. So we're going to use like 4 different RSS feeds. And you're going to be able to choose which feeds you want to use. So what we're going to be using is the ones from MIT, which is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And the reason we're going to use those, so we can get feeds from different places. A lot of different websites have, different news websites, ESPN, etc. Many blogs and stuff, they have RSS feeds. But some of the challenges with that is they're not necessarily consistent. And also, the level of quality isn't always there. I was originally going to just allow you guys to grab different feeds. But, once I started really getting into the coding on bringing those feeds in and stuff, there's too many inconsistencies from the different feeds. So what I kind of ended up deciding to do is MIT has lots of different topics. So they have lots of different feeds. It's really high quality content, and they're very consistent. They work. So I went ahead and settled on that. So the code that I created, it's not going to work with other feeds. It's really more designed for the MIT ones. Okay. So, but the biggest reason on the MIT stuff is just because, MIT does a lot of research. So they've got a lot of research, and they have a lot of quality content. So that's why I kind of decided on that. So first, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to clone the repository of the files, the base files, the starter files, right? So if we go ahead and just go there. So this is MIT RSS feeds, okay? And so what you're going to want to do is when you come in here, go ahead and go to code, all right? And then you've got under HTTPS, you've got the and I know you've done this at the beginning of the course, but that was quite a while back ago. So just kind of want to review this, not assume that you remember how to use this, and then you just copy to the clipboard like that, right? And then if you bring up your desktop, GitHub desktop, and come up here to File, and then do Clone Repository, and then you want to make sure because it might be on this tab when you come in here. So you want to make sure you choose the URL one, and then go ahead and paste it in there. Now, for me, I'm getting a message because I already have this feed there, right? This is where I created it and everything. But for you, you should not have this message. But so just make sure you go ahead and choose a path that you remember and you know where it is, right? You don't want to put this in the same place as in the same directory. You don't want to add this to the same directory of your class files that we've done up to this point, right? You want it somewhere separate, right? This is a separate repository. This isn't our classroom repository we've been using for our assignment. So you want to put this somewhere else, right? Outside of that, okay? So then go ahead and clone it, and that will clone that, right? And then once you do that, the next thing is you want to come into your your own repository, not mine. You want to go to your own repository, but in my case, it's going to be this one. So let me just go back to where this will be right here. All right. So go to your repositories, choose your repositories. And then what you're going to want to do here is on the right-hand side, little green button here, new. So just go ahead and select that. And now what you're going to want to do here is you want to go ahead and create a new repository for, this is where you're going to put your assignments. You're not going to put your assignments in the classroom repository. You're going to put your assignments in a separate public repository, okay? So you can call this pretty much whatever you want to call this. You can call it RSS Midterm, something like that. That's fine, okay? And then down here for a license, well, you could add a description here. And why not? Might as well choose a license. Why not? It doesn't really matter, but just this is an option within creating a repository because sometimes you might be providing code to a lot of people and you want to have a certain license, and not that is really important in our case, but just for the heck of it, I'm going to just grab MIT license there. And then we're going to go ahead, and the MIT license have nothing to do with the RSS feeds we're doing, right? Even though we're doing MIT RSS feeds, it's just a specific license that MIT came up with, right? So then we're going to go ahead and create our repository here. I'll choose an owner. All right, that will make a difference. And then you want to make sure that you choose public, okay? Public. And the license don't matter, but I added one anyhow. And then hit create repository. Okay, now you have your repository, right? All you really have in this, just your license in here, and that's it. So then next you want to go ahead and just like you clone the other one, right? You want to go ahead and clone this one as well. So you want to copy this to the clipboard. Okay, and then let's go back into GitHub Desktop, and let's do this again, but we're going to do it for your new repository, the one you're going to use for your midterm. Okay, so we're going to do clone repository. Make sure you're at URL here. Go ahead and copy that in there. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and put this. I'm going to put this in a different folder. I'm just going to put it right here at the root. Okay, so it's fine like it originally was. So then I'm just going to go ahead and clone this. This is going to clone, and then we have it. And show an Explorer here. So there it is with the license. Okay. And then what you're going to want to do next is go to, so you've got two different repositories now. You have the one with the base files, and you have one that you're going to be using for your midterm, right? Now, as long as, I don't know how you have things configured on your machine. I have it to show hidden files. So this is a hidden file. And this .git, you never want to mess with that, right? This is all about how it tracks all the files that you change. It's used by Git, right? But what you're going to want to go ahead and do is go to the other repository, the one with the base files. And that was this one. And then what you want to do is go ahead and you really don't want to copy. I guess it don't matter. I was going to say you probably don't want to copy that one. Not that it's a big deal. I don't think it would cause a problem. But you just want to grab your CSS, JavaScript, the RSS index, and this RSS feed one, these two HTML files. So I'm going to just copy these, okay? And I'm going to go to the new one that we created with nothing in it, and we're just going to paste. So now you can go ahead and these are the files that you have in this directory, and you can start building it from there, right? So, surprised that this didn't already show up. It's probably just don't see it yet. There it is. So automatically it's going to show up, right? Obviously, you can go ahead and check this in, so you'll have a set of files to start with, okay? But you don't have to. You can check it in later. But, you know, I make multiple check-ins. And actually, let me go ahead and check this in. Let me go ahead and check this in because I want to show you something else. So I'm just going to do... I'm going to commit this. I'm going to push this. We're going to come back out here to this directory. That's one's here. Kind of refresh this. Should be there pretty quickly. Okay, so this is the base files for that. And so now what we can do, and you can see this later, or might as well do this right away yourself and check it in. And then what we can do is go to settings. Okay, go to settings. Go down here on the left-hand side and go to pages. All right. And then hopefully this won't take too long. Sometimes what we're doing is we're going to actually make this, we're going to actually deploy this, or this is going to kind of get built and it's going to be made accessible via the internet, right? It's going to be online, right? So what we do, let's go ahead and give this a try. Sometimes it's slow. It depends on what's going on. I don't know why. Sometimes it's slower than others. So what you're going to want to do is come in here and click main. All right. This is like the easiest way to deploy that site out there. There's other ways to do it. And there's reasons you want to do it different ways. But for our purposes, simple's good. Simple will work for us, okay? Then go ahead and hit save. When you hit save, it says right here, your GitHub Pages site is currently being built from the main branch. So this will take a few minutes. Hopefully it'll only take a few minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and pause this video for a couple minutes and see if it automatically, you know, if it it updates quick enough. If not, we'll move on. But I'll go and pause for a couple minutes here. Okay, after a few minutes, you can see your site is live up here. And so you can go ahead and click on this. And this is, you know, this is just that base template. So this is the URL. So you can bookmark this URL or save it or whatever. I drop mine right on the bookmark bar here. So you can do whatever. But so this is that. And so what will happen is whenever whenever you commit more files, it may take a little bit depending on what's going on. If you have a problem with it, let me know. But once you commit some files, it should rebuild it and put it out there. It's not going to happen, you know, right away, but you know, within a short amount of time, you should see that updated. Okay. So you shouldn't really have to do anything else on that. I'll let you know. I haven't done it this way. I've actually, the way I've done it was kind of actually more complicated, but really unnecessarily complicated. Because once I spent a little time, I found out that this is much simpler of a way to do it. So that's that. So that's how quickly you can have something on GitHub Pages. And for any kind of front end application that you build, you can do the same thing. Okay, you can do the same thing and have that available. I think it's pretty much unlimited how many you can do. But there are some certain limitations, like you can't access databases. It's really just for front end technologies and the kind of stuff that we're doing. Bootstrap's fine. Using Bootstrap's fine. You know, using JavaScript, HTML, CSS, no problem there. Also, you can sometimes make calls outside of the thing, you know, but it's limited in that as well. One thing you can't do, you can't like connect to databases from your application and stuff like that. Okay, so there are limitations. It's more for considered static files because all the stuff we do are basically static files, right? You know, the JavaScript, CSS, HTML, Bootstrap, they're all static files, right? Okay, so that's that. So we went ahead and cloned the repository of the starter files, the base files, and we created our own GitHub repository, public repository that's outside of our classroom stuff, right? And then we went ahead and copied the files from the repository over, right? Okay, so as far as requirements, so for each page that you're going to create, make sure that you use the semantic tags. So HTML, starting with HTML, doc type, of course, having head, have the body, right? And then your header within the body, have navigation within your header, have a main, and this is going to be where all the content, the RSS content is going to be. And here's going to be your footer, right? So make sure that you use these tags in each page like that. Okay. And then each page is going to have a navigation bar. Should have links. So you should have the links on each page, right? Allowing easy navigation between the sections. Make sure you have the active link on the correct A tag. So I'll go ahead and review that. So navigation bar, footer bar. Make sure you put keywords. Make sure you put titles on every one of your pages. And your title is going to be whatever RSS feed you decide. Okay, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. But include keywords also in each page. So your keywords are going to be, if your feed's about robotics, then you're going to put some keywords about robotics in there. If it's about artificial intelligence, you're going to put some keywords about artificial intelligence, right? And then, so you're going to have your index page, which will just be your kind of your welcome page. You will not have a RSS feed on that page, but you will have RSS feeds on the other 4. Okay. And obviously, if you want to add extra pages, if you start getting into what you're doing and you're starting to enjoy it, add some more as well. But I'm going to go through how to do all this, how to get the feeds and everything here in a minute. Okay. And how we're gonna basically use JavaScript to parse the data and extract the necessary information. And basically, the base files take care of that for you. And so a lot of this is going to be, there's going to be a couple things that are going to be kind of complicated as far as tedious that you got to be careful about. But a lot of the base files is going to take care of the stuff you really need from the RSS feeds. And I'll show you that here. But make sure for each page, because it's going to be very easy to bring that stuff back to that page once you do. That's going to be the easy part. The data's there. Once the data's there, we just loop through it and we display it all, right? But you want to go ahead and add some styling. You want to use the Bootstrap layout and styling, add your own CSS to further enhance it, right? Make sure it's responsive, works well mobile and also on desktop, okay? And write clean, well commented and organized code, okay? So you want to kind of create. This is something you're going to create that that an employer might look at. So you want to kind of put the comments in there. You want to make it look good. You want to make it. You look at the code and you got things all jumbled up in there. You want to kind of have a nice format it nicely and everything else. Okay. So we'll go through a couple things here, and then we're going to just go ahead and look at some code and how to get the feeds. So you're going to have your home page, all right? And so on your home page, the home page must be called index.html, which is actually, it's already there. It's the base page. It's in the base files, right? Index.html. So you won't have to change that, but don't change that name, right? Because that's important for the GitHub pages, because that's what it uses to display, right? So there's no RSS feed on the home page, okay? And this you're also going to create a jumbotron like we did before. And then for each feed that you decide on, so you're going to have 4 different feeds. And so for each feed, go ahead and on that home page, name the feed you're using, why you decided to use that one, any kind of information, what kind of interest you about that, make it short and concise. It doesn't have to be something lengthy, but, make it, spend a little time to make it look nice and, sound nice, sound good. So, make sure that the homepage actually does look really nice. It's going to be a lot easier because with the content, as long as you use the Bootstrap tags right, the content's going to be pretty nice actually just from the beginning. Just once you get that on there, there's not a lot, there's some stuff that I suggest that you do to make that look better, but the content's going to, once you get that working, boom, that content's just going to be there, right? Homepage, you want to make sure you spend some time, make that homepage look nice, right? So you're going to have feed descriptions. Also, there's a student profile section. So if you want include an image of yourself, or if you really don't want to do that, you put a placeholder image. Also include, some other additional information about yourself. I wouldn't put a phone number or anything like that. Phone numbers or addresses, obviously. This is public. The chances of somebody running into this is not very likely, though, because, it would have to be indexed by search engines, even though search engines, they do have robots that go ahead and go through all these different sites all the time, right? All the pages on the internet all the time. But, and they will eventually go through your page, but the chances of your site ever being shown on a search engine at early results is not very likely, right? Unless you spend a lot of time with SEO to make sure that happened, maybe with your name, something specific. But, if you just put robotics, the chances of your site coming up are almost nil. It probably is nil, close to nil, 0.000, right? Some long number, right? That would show. But, it's still public, and, you may want to share that with some people. And, I suggest you go ahead and have a link to that on your resume and link to it from your web portfolio as well, okay? And your web portfolio, that we're also going to be working on that this week, and we're going to put that out in GitHub pages as well, okay? So your student profile, go ahead and update that section. Try to do a quality job on that. I think it'd be beneficial to add this disclosure just because we're using this MIT data, and instead of making it look like this is your data, you really don't want to do that. You want to disclose that that you're not associated with MIT and that, and so we want to kind of follow to make sure that people know that this is MIT data, that this isn't your data, right? So and then present the feed information in a clear, organized manner. You can use headings, lists, or other formatting elements to make the page easy to read. Okay, and then just make sure you got navigation on every page. So briefly, I'll just go quickly over this. So feed one be just a basic grid display. Not that you can use grids on the other ones as well, but that's what I just came up with. Just a grid display on the first feed, and that feed's going to be whatever you choose it to be. The one that I was creating, I have is robotics is the first one, right? But you can use whatever feed, and we'll go through those here in a minute that you want. Okay, and then it says display at least 12 RSS items. I'm not really that well worried about it. You're going to have a lot. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to be able to choose. You're going to be able to use a number. Say I want to bring back this many items. Now I don't know how many items per feed. It's obviously that's going to be different. But these feeds, which are basically XML files, have lots of items. I've put more than 30, and it depends on each feed. But there's pages I put more than 30. It's not really necessary, and it's just it's putting too many doesn't really benefit, right? So I wouldn't get too carried away with that. You'd be scrolling forever, and it's going to take time for it to all load and everything else. So just come up with a number. Here I just said use at least 12, but I wouldn't put 30 of them on there or anything like that. Okay, if you really do want to put less, that's fine. It's really not the purpose. I just came up with a number to come up with a number. And so for each article, we want to make sure we have a full, a button. It doesn't necessarily have to be full article, but create a button, and so that each one that you can click that, it'll actually go to the article, which is on MIT's website, right? And use text, color utilities, the Bootstrap utilities, and also CSS or anything to just to style it to make everything look nicer. More aesthetically pleasing, so to speak. And then feed 2 I have is a card display. Kind of the same thing here. I just have 12 RSS items. Like I said, it really doesn't matter all that much, but just wanted to come up with a number. And for a card, include the image, the title, and some content. And then I have a carousel with options. Okay. With that, you kind of want to make sure that I put a width of 50, so it's a little more constrained. Those ones that kind of cover the whole page really sometimes don't really look real well, really don't look that good. And I would constrain that some, and that's why I put 50 here for that. And then the fourth feed, I have an accordion display. Okay. And that's pretty much what I did in my example right here. This is the home page, right? And so the stuff that's on here, you don't have to use. You don't have to use all of this. I'd put some of this though. Figure out what you want and not want, and you don't want. I'd put the student profile about the site, but you don't have to use what's here. I suggest you change it actually. And I don't know if I'd use welcome to MIT RSS feeds necessarily. Maybe come up with a different title for that as well. Because I don't know, that makes it sound like it's you're associated with MIT a little bit, and I don't want that to look like that. So, so here was the index page, and then this one here is just a basic grid. Now on this page here, maybe it'd be beneficial. Things I would change, like I said, I'm just working on this myself, right? You know, this isn't a finished product myself. So what I would maybe do is make some of this smaller, try to fit maybe multiple instead of, you know, this is taking up a lot of space. You can't even get two of them on here, right? So maybe make this a little smaller so you can have a few more on here um, without having to scroll. So this one was just a basic grid. These are cards. I think the cards look really good in dark mode. Just I think just I like that look, especially with some of these images. It kind of looks cool. I kind of like it. Um, so so yeah, it's going to be really easy to pull in this data, and I'm going to show you that. Um, there's a little gotchas on that. You got to be careful. It's going to be a little tedious to get everything because just how we're going to be working with that, but it shouldn't be too bad. And once you got it, and your data's there. It's nice, you know. It's great to have content. You know, we're a lot of our assignments we've created our own content. You know, and, you know that's hard to do for especially develop. I don't want to just say developers for anyone, but you know, unless you think like that, you know, most developers better off having content that you know that's already available that they can use. So this one was, yeah, this one's here's the cards, and then this one is the carousel with the. So I got a title here, and I got a little bit of content. I'm going to show you how we can control some of these, how many items we can add to a page. We just decide that. Also, how much content we use, right? And then we'll have a full like on this case, we have a button for full article. It'll just go to that, right? And that'll be in a new tab there. And that's all of them when you click full article. The only thing I don't like sometimes is, you know, some of these, because of the navigation here, you know, if you got a really light colored one, it's kind of hard to see the little arrows, but it's pretty cool to, I mean, you know, you could set this to do 30 of them, and you're going to keep on scrolling through 30 of them, right? And then obviously this is something I just started to come up with. I'm probably going to leave that there, but I kind of like things a little more, and I don't even have my little mode thing on that one page. And that's not changing. Yeah, I've got some things I have to work on these other pages, but this is just kind of where I'm at with this. Okay, and then here this is accordion, where the first one's, you know, displayed, and then the other ones are from here, right? You know, and so you want to kind of add some more, you know, add something here, make this look a little nicer. What else do I want to cover on this? Not too much, I guess. All right. So now you're going to want to go ahead and bring up your. You want to go ahead and bring up your midterm, right? Basically the starter files, these base files that you put in the directory that you created, right? Go ahead and bring that up. So these are the files that are included, right? And here we got one RSS feed, which is mitrobotics.rss, right? And so this file, you don't have to worry about it. But this is what it looks like, okay? You really don't want to change anything in here. If you mess it up, it kind of won't work. You'll have to download it again. That's all you'll have to do, though. You have to download it again. But it has multiple items in here, okay? It has all these different items. And every item is basically an item that goes on that page. Some have some other stuff in here, though. That's kind of interesting, okay? But there's a lot of them. So we're only at the top of this. If you see over here on the scroll, we're at the very top of this file, and we've clicked through some items. So there's a lot of items in here, right? So each item is going to be a card or a row, whatever, right, of data. So this is the one for robotics, right? And like I said, you don't really have to change anything in here, but what's going to happen behind the scenes is the JavaScript's going to parse through here and grab all this, okay? It's going to grab all this. So we're going to close that. So let me show you next on this. So first, what I would do here, I wouldn't spend a lot of time getting your navigation perfect at the beginning, because you want to decide which files you want to use. So come up with 4 of them, because you're going to give names for the navigation, a name that's associated with the feed, and then you want to make sure that you have the right one that's active on each page. So just make sure you get things in order, and then you can copy it to each page, and instead of doing it and then changing it again and changing it again, right? So I'd figure out the feed you're going to use before you start building the navigation out, okay? And I'll show you one way, so what you can do with your very first one. So this is number 1 feed, right? So in this case, it's robotics, and yours don't have to be robotics here, okay? That's the one I put in the base one. But I'm going to show you how to get the other feeds. And actually, it even mentions it in the midterm itself on getting the feed. I think it's at the top, isn't it? Clone the repository right here. So here's your different feeds. And then if you click it, it's actually going to come. No, it's not going to come there. It's going to come here. So here is all these RSS feeds, okay? So MIT has lots of them, okay? Main feeds, feeds by school, feeds by topic. So what I think's best. So there's a lot of things, since it's a school. They have things, faculty stuff that they have different stories about things that from my perspective, I really didn't want. I was trying to avoid some of that. I'm going to show you how I kind of made some changes to the code. So like if it's a list of faculty members or something like that, which is great, and everything, but I was wanting to kind of filter some of them out so that mostly we're just seeing real stories, right? Real news headlines, research type stuff, etc., right? And I'll show you how I kind of did that here in a minute. But these are the different feeds, okay? So you have aeronautical, anthropology, architecture, etc., etc. So the ones that I kind of did already, which ones? Let's see. I did, artificial intelligence. I did robotics. Space was the one. I did space. Let's see. Well, whatever. So there's different ones available. And so what you can do here is decide on the ones you want to use, okay? And now you can grab different ones, check it out, look at kind of the stories, see if it interests you, okay? And go from there. So let's do chemistry, because I don't have that. So here's one called chemistry. And so here's the XML, just kind of we were looking at the XML. So we want to go ahead and save this, right? So we're going to right click here, and we're going to do a save as. And so if it says text file down here, sometimes they'll say .xml here, and sometimes they won't. If they're .xml, you want to do all files, and here you want to do .xml. Okay, it's really important to be .xml. And here I'm just downloading it right to my downloads folder. I'm going to save it to my downloads folder. I'm going to open this up. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. All right. I'm going to copy that. Which one did I do here? It's chemistry, wasn't it? Okay. I have multiple going on here. All right. And then we can come over here. You can copy it. You can go right to this folder. And right click and just hit Control V, paste. Yeah. So are you sure you want to paste chemistry? Yes. We're going to paste it. Now you got chemistry, right? So right now for our feed, this first one, we are using, and I'm going to show you what we're going to change here. We're using the robotics one. So what we're going to be changing on this one, and I'm going to go through this whole file here in a minute. We open the script, okay, the script tag. So we have some different scripts, okay. So we have a RSS feed script. We're going to go through that. There's a toggle for that toggling. We toggle the dark, right? And then I have embedded JavaScript, okay? And this is what we're using to call the code that's in the RSS feed.js file, okay? We're passing in some parameters, right? We're passing some arguments. We're passing arguments, right? So on here, what we're going to want to do, so the first thing is the very first variable here in our script is this RSS file path. So what we're going to want to do is this is pointing to that MIT robotics one, okay? And so what we're going to want to do is go ahead and change this, right? And so we're going to change this to chemistry. All right. CHEMISTRY. Okay, looks good. So now all we got to do is save this. Okay, there's two different other things here, and I'll go into this a little bit more. Number of items. So that's how I decide. All you have to do is change this number, and it will return that many items. So let's just say, let's change this time. Before we had 12. Let's change that to 4. We'll leave number of characters. And so this is going to be the number of characters of content, because these files, actually, these ones from MIT, they're pretty much the whole complete stories. They're the whole complete stories. There are a lot of content. So what I'm doing is I'm just returning, and I'll show you how you can adjust that depending on how much space you want to take up with that content, all right? And so in this case, we're just going to go ahead and do 100 characters, okay? And number of items 4. I also want to point out real quick here. So you know how when you're like putting in a source here, you can actually, you put in the directory and it finds it in the file system and everything. Well, this doesn't work this way for this, okay? This is a variable. This is different than these HTML tags. So here you're going to have to make sure that you have this correct. It's not going to automatically find what you're looking for, right? So in this case, we've got RSS feeds. So you have to make sure your feed is under the RSS folder and the name of and you have the name correct, right? So that's that. Okay, so now if we save this, and I'm just going to right click and do open with live server. And even though this says robotics, right? Even though this says robotics, this is not, this is chemistry. And actually, you probably can't tell. And one thing you're going to find out happens a lot is there's stories that might be on robotics that are also in AI, the artificial intelligence feed. There's duplicates, right? There's duplicates and stuff like that. But probably if you look through a lot of this, you can start telling that some of this is chemistry, right? I probably didn't do enough. But as you can see, only 4 came back this time, right? Because I changed that to 4. So let's just go ahead and bring back a few more. Let's go ahead and change this to, let's change it to 24. Let's put a big number. And I really don't suggest you do this. I'm just doing it for illustration purposes. So now we've got a lot more. And isn't that great? You just change that. Well, once I started playing with that and started, when I started writing that code, I started playing with that. I said, hey, I can just bring back this many items and make things a lot nicer. So here, it's kind of hard to tell that this is actually chemistry, but it is. Okay. Obviously, it looks different than the robotics one, right? But here's talk about chemist here. And, a lot of this you can tell if you read through this, it's chemistry, right? Talk about proteins and stuff and molecules, enzymes, right? But so here's 24 of them this time, right? Because I changed that to 24. So this is what you can do. You can just play around. And like I said, for now, I have robotics here. So if you want to stick with robotics, if not, then you're going to want to change this to chemistry. You want to change that to chemistry up in your navigation, right? And you want to change chemistry, your heading there as well, right? And then whatever changes you want to do, you want to make to this page. This kind of looks not too bad on its own, but really, I want you to do a little more than that. I want you to do a little more styling, play with it, make it look nicer, okay? So back to the feeds here. So you can grab any of these. Some of these may end up taking you to other pages. It depends on what you choose. So them are all going there. But there will be some circumstances where actually it might go to another page which has multiple ones as well. So you can play with that. But this is all you'll have to do for most of this. So like here, that's taking you, this one's the page not found. So yeah, RSS feeds, we're back to where we were. So yeah, they all can't find that. So the important thing is to make sure, like I said here, so here's one, aeronautics. So here you want to right click, save as, all files, right? Make sure you do .xml here and hit save. I already have it, so sure. So one thing is I did want to kind of bring up, so these RSS feeds, they're kind of can be used for in different ways. Probably the most common thing is that people actually use them. There's called RSS readers, and I'm going to show you an example one. So this is an RSS reader, okay? Most of them cost money. There's probably some free ones out there as well, but most of them cost. And what you can do is you can have an RSS reader. Kind of this is like, I would say that most people that when you talk about RSS feeds, this is what they're thinking about, right? So that you can go ahead and access, you can go ahead and store all your different RSS feeds. And the reason for that is so that you can control what kind of news. So like, if you just go out to Google News or something like that and you search for something, you're going to get a whole bunch of things from a whole bunch of different places. And some of it's good, some of it's not so good, right? And so here, when you're controlling what feeds, you can control what feeds you're using. So it kind of raises the quality, I guess, of the data, the stories you're looking at. But this is kind of a big reason to use RSS feeds. We're using it in a different way, though, right? We're using it to display data on a website, which does happen as well, right? And basically, some of these news websites are actually, that's what they're doing in a lot of cases. Google News is using RSS feeds, but they have relationships with these companies and they can do some things that we can't do, right? And in our case, we're actually using, when we download those files, we're downloading that file, that RSS file so the stories that are in there are at that point in time. So a month from now, that file is going to be a little different, right? It seems like there's a lot of stories in there. So I think that, historically they probably got a lot of older ones in there as well. But, any newer stories, you're not going to have that unless you replace the files, okay? Let's see what else I want to talk about here. I do want to show you something just for your own personal knowledge. So if we go back here and let's go to this aeronautics one. So we copy this URL, okay? Now, some RSS feeds, you can actually access using the URL, okay? But you can't all of them. And there's different reasons that companies a lot, and actually it isn't actually the company blocks it. It just prevents you from, it's actually the browser prevents it. It's called cross-origin CORS cores, and it will prevent you. It's kind of a security type thing, and the the server, like the MIT servers, if they wanted to allow that, they can. So when you grab like the bootstrap stuff and things like that, they're allowing, the company puts things in the header of the response. Okay. You don't have to worry about what all that really means, but they put things in the header of the response. So it's okay that it pretty much tells the browser, yeah, it's okay for them to get this. Okay. But what MIT is doing on theirs, and this happens from a lot of different organizations, is they have something different in their headers, so it won't really allow you to view that on the browser like that. Okay, and let me just kind of show you. It's fine what we're doing when we download it and we control it that way. But if I use this URL, and don't worry about this, it ain't going to make a difference. I just wanted to kind of show you this, just for your own thing, because this JavaScript file will actually handle, if we could actually access them this way, it would actually work, But in this case, what's going to happen here, I'm going to show you. So you can see the data didn't show up. If I go ahead and do F12 here, you're going to have this error here, and it has it right here from origin. As access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. So basically it's blocked by CORS policy. Okay. So, and that's because you're trying to access this URL from a domain that's not the same, right? So this will work within MIT EDU, but your domain is different. You're trying to access this from your domain, which is localhost. So you will be blocked by this CORS policy. Okay, so just background information, but you'll learn more about this in the second year of the program, a little bit more in depth. Okay, so let's see what we want to do next here. All right, let's put that back there. Let's actually put it back like that, so it's robotics again. So next, let's go ahead and look at the JavaScript files. So basically what we have here is this fetch and process RSS. We have a file path, and this is what we're calling from each HTML page. We're going to be calling this. We're going to be calling this in the embedded JavaScript, and in the embedded script, we're going to be calling this each time. Okay, and what this is doing, you pass in your file path, and in our case, it's going to be a local file path, right? We see what happens if we try to access that by the URL. We can't do that, right? So we're going to have our file path. We're going to have our number of items to display, and our number of characters. Okay. I won't go into every line here, but basically it's creating what's called a DOM parser, okay? And in our case, we're using XML, right? And it goes ahead and parses that whole document, right? And then what it's going to do is you're going to do a query select all on item. Remember, we kind of looked at one already where you had the items. So in here, we go down, we have these items, right? So it's going to grab every item, and it's going to, we're grabbing certain things out of that item. We're grabbing a title, we're grabbing a description, we're grabbing content, okay, out of each item, right? And then another thing, what I did was, because of originally when I started bringing these, started displaying these feeds, and I did a lot to, which just, displaying a lot of them, 30 of them or whatever. I kind of noticed, a bunch of them were about faculty or students, which is great and all, but I really wanted to kind of get, stories, news stories, and, some content like that. So each of those items have categories too. Okay. And so what I did is I kind of looked at what categories, a lot of those, like if it was a faculty, alumni, funding, awards, I kind of, what I do is I'm filtering those out. And that's what this is doing, okay? It's filtering those out. So, but you'll also, it depends on how that's decided is by each individual department, and those categories is what they decide to put in there. And so there's probably some stories that are really good stories that would be still nice to have, but it was too hard. There's too many of in some of those feeds. There was too many faculty things and awards, which is great and all, but I kind of really just want to try to get more stories to come back. Okay. I'm sure you'll still see some that'll have about individual faculty members and stuff like that, because it all depends on what categories that the departments put in when they created those files, right? But that's what I'm doing here on that. I'm filtering out certain things. And this file here, you don't have to change this either. Okay, there's nothing in here you have to change. If you want to come in here and play around with things, that's fine. Okay, but you don't have to. And basically, what's this getting? This is getting a title. This is getting a link to the story. It's getting a description. I don't think I put a description in most of on the pages that I did, but you can look at that because that description will be there. So these are the things that it will return. So each item, when you're looping through, you'll have a title, you'll have a link, you'll have a description, you'll have an image, and you'll have the content. Okay. And like I said, what I did with that content, let's go take a look at that quickly here. So we got a number of characters. Okay, let's go find that. So what this is doing is it's reduced the amount of content. So it's calling get a certain amount of characters, which I created this function, and it's just here at the bottom. So certain amount of characters. So I base in the text. Text is the content itself from the feed, right? And then I have a number of characters, and then what it's doing, it's going to go ahead and only return a certain amount of characters, and then after that, it's going to go ahead and add 3 dots. Okay. So real quick, I'm not going to go through everything here on this, but you can spend some time and look at this. So back to our feeds. So we come here. We have a number of characters. So in this case, 20. We put a 0 here. Let's just take a look, so you can see how this is going to work. So it depends on what you're wanting to do here, and depends on how much space you have. So here's 0 on that one, right? Let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff. And then if I change this to, and if it's more, it won't blow up, okay? It won't blow up if it's more than that, okay? But there's a lot of content on all these stories. Look at that, right? So you can adjust that content for whatever works for your page, okay? Whatever works for your page that you're displaying. All right. Let's see here. I think 100 was better. Let's see, is there anything else on here I want to go over? Okay, so I guess really the next thing here. So what's happening? So now we know we're bringing a bunch of data back to our screen. So actually, let's go look at our screen here again. And so here you've got a bunch of stories. And so if I right click here, no, we'll just do F12. Actually, let's do right click. So if I right click here and do view page source, we come in here. So here's our basic R page. Here's our some of that embedded JavaScript, right? And then here's our body tag. Here's our body tag and our, so you can see in here, just kind of a reminder, we kind of talked about this last week a little bit. So we're just viewing the physical HTML, right? But all that data, all them stories, all those news stories that are there are not viewable in here, right? They're not viewable here because this is the physical HTML file, right? It's really stored in the DOM, right? So if we go here for the DOM, we need to go to F12, and let's do a document here. And if we look at the document, all right, and we go into here, we can see all of our data in here. So we don't, under main, so here's our rows. So what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. That's what we had, 12 items. And so this is our data. So this data is in the document object model, right? But it's not going to be viewable if you like view source of the page. Just kind of wanted to point that out. It's all right. It's kind of dynamic, right? So if you're wanting to kind of take a look at something on your page, you're wondering if things aren't working, and you want to make sure that things are lined up, you're going to need to come in here, okay? So in the case we're using a grid, so we've got a container, right? And in those containers we have rows and columns, right? So, and you got to be careful, and I'm going to show you, you're going to have to be careful with your tags in that, because it can get a little bit confusing sometimes. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we come in here, and what's going to be really helpful also, let's make this bigger there. What's also going to be helpful is collapsing and expanding things. So right now we're going to collapse script, right? So here, so this is our basically our body, our whole body, right? Tag and everything that's in the body, which includes the header, the navigation, the main. We should have the main in there too, right? And we can collapse that one as well. Here's our main. So it's kind of interesting. This is our main. So all of our content is in here, right? And like I said, this is the physical part, right? We're only going to see that in the DOM. We're going to see all of our content, right? So, but what we're doing here, okay, and what we're doing is replacing, or I shouldn't say replacing, we're inserting data. Okay, we're using this ID, and we're using the inner HTML tag. And so what happens is, when we do that, it's going to be putting all of the data in here. This is where all of our data is going, okay? That's where all of our data is going. All right. So then I'm going to come here. So back to this. So we know what we need to do for our file path. This is going to be our RSS file that's in whatever the name of it is when you download it, and you make sure it's got .xml, right? And make sure it's in the directory structure. And then, these are all, you can adjust these accordingly for your own needs, number of items and number of characters, okay? Now this is calling that, this is the function that's defined in this RSS feed.js. And you can see we're getting the element by ID of this RSS content, which is what we just looked at, is in that main section, right? So here's our content, right? And then so what we're doing is we call this function, we call this function, and it's going to return, if it returns anything, it's going to return RSS data, right? And this, what we do is we take RSS data and we're doing a for each. So for each item, okay, then what we're doing is let item HTML equal this empty string, right? Now we don't have to do it this way. I don't want to confuse things. Maybe we'll just leave it like that. We could move this outside of this. We could move this outside of it and just keep adding to it, but that's okay. So we're adding to it, and then we're resetting it to empty, and then we're doing that over and over again, but that's okay. Not a big deal. So our inner HTML, right? Our inner HTML, so this is what we're taking. We're taking this tag, and inside of this tag, right? After the begin tag, before the end tag, we are adding whatever's in here, right? So in this case, we've got our row and our columns, right? This is the data. And then we're basically using our string literals to $. So we prefix with item.image. Here's item.title for our alt tag. Okay. We're using a heading. You can also play around with the description too, because that's another. This has the ones that return are down here at the bottom. So we have title, link, description, image, content. So we're using every one of them except description. We're not using description. Okay. So for this feed, so it doesn't matter what feed you're using, right? This is going to be the same, right? Doesn't matter. The feed doesn't change this. What changes this is what you're displaying on this page. And in this case, we're displaying a grid, which we already defined that container outside of this, right? So that's one thing you got to realize, that the other HTML is defined outside of this. What we do in here is just anything that has to do with the items, right? What we're iterating over, right? What we're looping over, right? And we're looping over the items, and this is all part of the items, right? We do have a row count, but I'm not using it anywhere. I guess it's really not necessary for anything, but that's all right. So I would, for all of yours, no matter what you're trying to do, I would use target.blank. And so this is doing a button here, full article button. Okay. So this is how that one works. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do this for others. Okay. So let's take a look at doing another feed. Maybe we'll do the carousel one just because I think it's a little more complicated. So let's go ahead and do that one. Okay, so first I would, go ahead and create your additional one. I'm going to do this. Maybe I won't do this. Maybe I shouldn't use number 2 just so I don't confuse you. Because number 2 is really, number 2 is going to be what? The cards. Number 3 is actually the carousel, right? So I'm just going to call that number 3 to make things. I'm not going to do the cards. You could go ahead and do the cards one, but I'm going to do the carousel just because it's a little harder. But some of the same concepts that we're doing here is going to help you. So first, what I would actually go ahead and do is I would just take and grab all of this. Okay, of feed index 1. Okay. Obviously, there's better once we start using framework, especially when you get into that second year and you're doing the database-driven 1 course. You'll be doing things that'll make things a lot easier for you. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. So obviously here, this is a different one. It depends on what your name of your thing is. So you're going to be changing some things in here, right? Obviously, title, you want to change the title. Make sure you do the title for each one. Also add keywords. I don't have keywords in these. Make sure you add keywords. And then decide which RSS you want to use, right? And you know how to do that. And from there, but what you can do additionally, you just want to play around. You can just try some different RSS feeds, see which ones work for you. You keep downloading them, put in here, decide which ones you want to use. Okay. And then, so you're going to come in here and then change your RSS feed. And then we're going to come down here. All right. So for right now, let's just skip over this. And then, just make sure you come down here and change anything that needs to be changed. Your robotics, your nav bar. So in this case, our nav bar just has one thing. So you're going to have multiple links here, right? So you're going to have multiple links. And like I said, though, you probably should really decide all you're doing before you mess with them so that you probably can get the nav bar situated and then copy that nav bar into each one of them. And one thing you just want to make sure that you always do though is the active one here on line 60, that you have the active one that actually the correct one that you're using, okay? You'll know it when you're on that page too, if you're in the browser looking at your thing, and if you're in a different page and you see the other one highlighted, whatever, then you know it's the wrong one too. But go ahead and change all that, okay? So, but this is different. So we were just using a grid, right? And because we copied this from our page 1, so that was the grid. So in this case, though, what we're going to be wanting to do is the carousel here, right? And beside, more than that, it's more than just in there. We're also going to have to change some things where and this is where it gets handy to kind of collapse some things, get it out of our way. So our main, right, we're going to put some of the stuff for carousel here, and our script is just going to be the stuff that's necessary for us to loop over, right? So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we're going to want to go out to Bootstrap here and go to Docs and go down to our components, go to carousel. And so for this one here, we're going to be using the one with captions. So let's go down till we find that one. So here's the caption one. So we want to go ahead and say, we're going to copy this, right? We're going to copy this. Let's copy that. Let's go back to our editor. So in our main content here, so we're going to keep our heading. We're going to keep our heading. And for now, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to have to cut this up a little bit because part of this is going to be part of the items things we're iterating. The rest is going to be here, right? It's going to be a little more than here we only had just this div for container, pretty basic, right? But for carousels, it's a little more complicated. So some of it's going to be here, and then the stuff that when we're creating those items, we're going to have to move that HTML into the script tag, right? So here, let me just go ahead and copy that there. So the first thing I want to mention is, so you'll have to kind of decide. You don't have to decide at the beginning, but this whole slide stuff, you have to have one of these for each slide. So this is for 3 slides. So you have to decide, I think I put 8 or whatever number I put, 8. So if I put 8, then you're going to need to do 8 of them, okay? Which would be 0 through 7, okay? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, I think over here, the stuff I was working on, I already have it. So what is this? 0, 1, 2. So I need 3 through 8. Which slide, so the one at 2 is at slide 3, right? It's 0 based on that, right? So, it'll kind of work. You'll see, if you have it wrong, you'll see how it doesn't really quite work well, right? And you want to make sure the first one's going to stay active, right? You make sure you have that on slide 1. So here we're doing slide 1 through 8, okay? So this needs to stay in the main part of the HTML, all right? And then after that, what else do we need to do? So here on this one, carousel inner, so this is where let's see, carousel inner is this one here. So this part, carousel item, right? So these items are that's what we're bringing back, right? So these items here, you have to be careful what you're doing here. The controls are down here, right? Oh, it's got multiple items. That's why that's like that. Okay, good. All right, that's fine. So here it's just showing 3 items because you know, by default it had 3 slides, so you have 3 items. But you don't want any of these here, but you want to copy one of these, right? We're going to create 8 of them. We're going to create 8 of these, but we're going to do it in JavaScript. So you want to copy this, and then I'm just going to delete these other ones, okay? So there's this one and this one. So we want to delete this. And this is why I say, you know, a lot of this, you got to be a little careful about, you know, take your time, make sure you're got things lined up right. If not, it won't work. You know, it's not going to work, you know. That's probably the hardest part of this. It's kind of a little tedious in that regard. So then here you got that, and then we're going to go ahead and give this an ID. Here, let's, before I do that, let me save my, paste my HTML. Let me just put it right here. Put a little space here. Okay, just get out of our way. Okay, there. And then here, what we're going to do. Okay, so this div. So this here, we're going to go ahead and create an ID. And then for here, we'll just call it the same thing as this class. Okay, let's call it the same thing as this class. And then besides that, I think everything else will be fine here. Okay, so we have a lot more code compared to our grid. We just had basically the grid container, and that was it. For this carousel is a little different, right? So what we'll have to do is make sure we have the right number of slides. So we're only going to bring back 8. Our number is going to be 8, right? If you want to do less or more, you just have to make sure when you call that function that you have for how many items, you're going to have to make sure that that corresponds correctly, right? All right. And so what we're doing is the JavaScript that we're going to be editing is going to put all of the content right here, right? It's going to be all those items, right? All right. All right, so we're going to go back up to this JavaScript here. We're just going to go ahead and grab this. Guess I could have done this earlier. Just put it right there. Okay. And you know, always make sure you've got your ticks, right? Your back ticks. You need before your content and after your content. Spacing's fine. Spacing does not matter. Probably could do a little better here on that, but we'll get that cleaned up here in a minute. All right, so that's this. These are our items, right? So we have let's see, 1 div, 2 divs, opening, 2 divs close. Okay, so that you got to be careful, make sure things are lined up. So what we're going to do here is we got an image source, right? So here, what we're going to want to do here is what? We're going to do our $. And if you forget, just look at the one from before. I probably should have left that here, actually. No, we need to do what? We need to do item, right? It's items there. Item.image. Probably should be there. Nope. No, it's not. All right. So there's item.image. That, our alt tag here. So we might as well do, we'll just put the title there. It's actually a pretty big one, but that's all right. I mean, they're just big titles, long titles, I should say, not big, long titles. So here we're going to do what? We're going to do item dot title. All right, that's that. Okay, and then what's the next thing we want to do? We got an H5 tag, first slide label. So here we're going to want to do our $. And we're going to do item dot title again. Okay, so you got that. And then our P tag, some represented placeholder content. Well, that's our content. So what we're going to do here is, and then we're going to do item dot content, right? that. And then, so something we want to add though, something we want to add here is we want to go ahead and add a link. We want to add our link page, right? Our link button. And actually, let me go over and grab that instead of creating that. So make sure you do target blank so it opens up in a new tab. And here I'm doing a button primaries. So, and it's basically the same one from over there before as well, right? Let me kind of fix this up just a little bit. Make sure everything lines up, everything looks good. Don't forget your ticks, back ticks, and those are not single quotes, them are back ticks, right? All right, so there's that. That looks good, I think. So we have our image, we have our title, carousel item. Yeah, there is something else I think we're going to have to do on this. But here, let's take a look. Okay, so what we're doing here, we need to change this to 8. We know that. Let's not, we don't want anywhere near, we don't want much content at all on that. We probably could add a description instead, or, you know, I don't know. But, you know, that's something to play around with. Okay, let's just see if this works. That's the important thing here. All right, let's see what's wrong here on that one. So nothing was coming back. Let's try that again, and let's go do an F12 here. Okay, cannot read. Okay, I'm sure I deleted something by mistake. Okay, yeah, I figured it out. So we, you know, did a cut and paste, right? So another thing we have to do on each one is get element by ID, right? So we have to make sure that we have the right element. So this is the element within our HTML. So we need to come down here and we added that ID. It's right here, right? This is our ID. So let's go ahead and go up here and put that there. Now let's go ahead and give this another try. There we go. Okay, so this is a big, you know, this is kind of big here. So I think we'll make this smaller, but okay, these don't work, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what you'll have to also do on this. I think what we're going to have to do here is a carousel item. So this says active here. So what happens is every one of them are going to be active, right? It's different when you've just got static content and you've got your first one's active and the second one, you know, the other ones aren't active, right? When you just got, you know, all these items, you know, in your HTML, but we're looping through, so every single one is going to end up having active. So what we'll have to do is there's an item. So what we can do here is item, and what we could do is actually get an index. This will return an index for us, you know, a number, right? This will return a number. And then what we can do here on that, let me just cut and paste this. once we have that, so instead of putting active like this, what we do is if the index equals 0, it's going to be active. Otherwise, it's going to be empty. Okay, so the very first one is going to be 0. And that's the one you want to be active. Always, for carousels, the active one's always the first one in the list. We have multiple, so if the index equals 0, which the first time is going to be 0, then make it active. Otherwise, it's going to be empty so that the other ones won't have that. And we'll look at the HTML. We'll look at the DOM, I should say. We'll look at the DOM and see the first one will now have active, and the other ones, because we're looping through this 8 times, right? Will just be empty. Well, it won't have the active class in there. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to open this with Live Server, and now it's working. There we go. And then here's a title, just a little bit of content. Here's, it's got 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's a full article. Make sure everything works. Everything looks good. Okay. So here, though, I'd also make some other changes to this as well. Okay, so I also would change. So here, probably should never leave examples there, but that's okay. That's because we just get it from Bootstrap, but probably best to change that. So what here is, let's go ahead and change the width of this. Let's change the width of this to 50. And then also, another option you can also put in here if you want it to kind of fade in and out when you're doing it, which is kind of nice as well. You can do a carousel. It's not going to have carousel fade here, though, is it? All right. So that should fade in and out a little bit. Then also up here, what we can kind of do is probably put a little bit of style. We can add the style to our style sheet. Are we bringing in our style sheet here? We should be, right? Yeah. So let's just add that to our style sheet, I guess. So we can just add this here. So this basically this will go ahead and center this. Let's see what that looks like. Let's save that now. And then we'll go ahead and take another look at this. There you go. Maybe adjust it a little more still. I don't know. It's kind of button against the thing down here. But there you go. Pretty close. Play with it a little more, Still not bad though. It's okay. Okay. So just kind of review this real quick. So thing to remember always, that you'll need to change for every page. Obviously, you're going to change the feed, right? You're going to have to make sure it's an RSS folder, and you're going to have the feed. Number of items and number of characters, you change those as needed. Always make sure every page, you're going to have an ID, and that ID is going to be associated with one of the tags in your HTML in the main section, right? In the main section, whatever components you're using from Bootstrap, and so make sure you have an ID on there so that the items that you're creating, the HTML you're creating here, are going to be put in the tag that's defined here, right? The inner HTML of this tag. Let's see, anything else here on that I want to go over. And like I said, you're going to have to take your time, be really careful that, figuring out, what HTML just needs to be part of the main and which HTML is going to be part of our JavaScript that we're going to dynamically create basically the items, right? That's associated to the items we're creating, right? And even though, like some of these times, these tags, well, in this case, we're using a tag. So if we didn't have this, we'd still have to have this item tag for each one, even if we weren't doing this, right? We have to do that in this case. But sometimes if there's just a tag here, you know, you always have to, if it's associated with anything inside of here, you're going to pretty much need to have that as well. That's probably kind of confusing. Maybe just forget I said that. So, okay, what else I want to go over here on that? So one other thing I want to go over, not that it's necessary for you to know, just kind of interesting. Just so as far as our little toggle for our dark mode, as far as you can see right here in the JavaScript has this local storage, okay? And if I'm going to save, I'm going to copy that. So what happens with this, it's actually using, so you know, you don't see this anywhere. You don't see this function defined, right? It's somewhere. It's actually part of the, it's part of the Windows, it's part of the object, Windows object. It has to do with Chrome, okay? And let me kind of show you this. It's kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and, wrong one. So it doesn't matter which one I bring up. Let's just bring up this one. So let's open with Live Server. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to, let's not change it at all yet. Let's go, let's do an F12 here. In our console, local storage. Actually, I think we can see this in a, look at this, dark mode equals null. Actually saving this in local storage, okay? Now, if we ended up, this is also accessible under Application Storage Local. Look, dark mode has a key value thing for our local host site. And so that's what that local storage is doing. And I'll just show you why that's interesting. Now, if we go over here, let's just change this. There's a breakpoint here. We don't really want to do a breakpoint. I'm going to go back to our application. And now you can see it's enabled, right? So this is actually saving this in what's called local storage. Just kind of interesting. You don't have to know this necessarily. You know, it will be beneficial second year stuff, but, you know, just kind of want to point it out what this is actually doing. So it's putting that in local storage. And what that means here, okay, is, let me copy this. I'm going to just go ahead and close my whole browser window. My browser's gone. I'm going to do a new browser, brand new browser, right? And I'm going to put it in here. And since I toggled that before, it's saving that. It's saving that in local storage. So next time it comes in, it's going to be like that, right? And then if I went ahead and unselected this, so now back to, if we went and looked at local storage here again, right? It's null. Okay, it's either going to have a value, be enabled, or it's null, right? That's the two options there in this case. And then, like I said, we just go ahead and close this again. We bring Chrome up again. I'm going to put the page in there. And see, so that's how that handles that. It's, you know, just kind of interesting. It's actually saving that in local storage. You can save other things in local storage as well. Not that we'll be doing that much in this class. Maybe we'll do some little exercise with that later on. We got some weeks left, so maybe we'll do a little bit more of that. Just kind of interesting way for you to save data. So the important thing is, you know, I hope that doing this assignment will create something that's going to be good for you to use to put a, to demonstrate your skills and to be able to, share this with others and really be something that you can include part of your web portfolio and, be something you can be proud of, Please try to spend some time taking a little work on it, so one thing, here, one more thing I want to show here before we go. We can do another option for you. Let's see here. So I wanted to kind of show you about the navigation here for a minute. And actually, just to review, it's always good. Some cases, especially when you're trying to make things line up with it's always good sometimes to collapse and expand these different tags. So under heading here, our header, okay, yeah, this one does have a fixed top. So for our browsing, so if you want to make sure you're browsing, I don't know if I guess I did add that before I guess that's part of the base things. So it's already there. I didn't even think about it. So yeah, so it's up to you. This is fixed, right? This is fixed. If you don't want it fixed, you don't have to. It's kind of nice to have it fixed, isn't it? But also I can show you something else that you can also do as well. So we do have a footer here as well, right? So our footer, what did we do here? Is it fixed at bottom, I think? I think it's going to be fixed, dash bottom. I believe so. So let's take another look at this. Not that you necessarily have to do this, but this might be an option for you. It depends on what you're looking for. That you could always do that if you want to have this always viewable, right? So you're fixing that, so it's always going to be viewable. It's up to you on that. Just wanted to let you know that that's an option. I know there's pluses and minuses to that, but this page in general, this is the grid. I'd really work on trying to get more of the rows to fit. Here you don't even have two full rows fitting. So, and also sometimes with these fixed things here, with these fixed navigation, sometimes this thing can like hide underneath of your fixed navigation. Well, not here. That I don't mean there, but I mean just when the page comes up. I think if you just stick with the base files, you'll be fine. But sometimes, I was having an issue where it would be underneath where that navigation is just bringing up the page before even scrolling. So I had to add some more padding and some margin, right? So, but that's about all I have. Please let me know if you have any questions. And, I'm fine with helping you through this assignment. Like I said, I really want this to be something that you can build and have that out there, viewable on the internet, and be something you can be proud of. Okay, so thanks a lot, and have a great day.